Not gonna lie to you, this went from being a kind of normal, okay episode of NXT to being a top tier episode of NXT in the second half of the show. There's no point in burying the lead. Ricky Starks made his debut at about 9:30 on this episode of NXT. He just kind of fell out of the sky, walked down the stairs, and there he was. I was shocked, you know. Now, the thing is, normally I would want you to build this up, normally, but they're building something else. So I was like, man, I wonder what's going to happen at Vengeance Day, because they're building something. And they was like, oh yeah, while you looking at that, take this. And they just dropped this right in your lap. So Ricky Starks comes out, and no pipe bomb, nothing like that, just basically says that, you know, this brand needs an absolute superstar. Then says that the hottest brand needs the hottest free agent. And if you're wondering when the Revolution will be televised, well, I'm here. And took the breath out of me. It took the internet a little while to catch up. You know, a lot of people weren't watching NXT. And all of a sudden, it started to bubble. Then it started to overflow. But yeah, this ruled. This was great. This was great. It was right before the main event. Came out of nowhere. No build up whatsoever. He wasn't immediately put in a feud, but you did see that he was there. It was excellent. It was very, very, very well done. And it was so quick after he got his release that I don't think most people was even expecting it. It was almost like when Malachi Black showed up in AEW, and everybody was like, how? Like, how could that be? You know, they knew he had gotten released, but they didn't know he could, you know, turn around that quick. It was the same thing here, where the turnaround was just so quick. I think it took a lot of people by surprise. I was dumbfounded, personally. You know, I'm beyond the point of marking out, so I don't mark out about things usually. But I was certainly taken aback. This one stole the thunder of the main event. It stole the thunder of the rest of the show, if we're being honest. But this is what Ricky Starks needed. This is his opportunity to show that he can be the guy that you build the show around. Because NXT has an incredibly weak male division. He could come in and carry this joint. I love Obafemi. I love Trick Williams. Tony D'Angelo is really good too. There's a lot of guys in NXT that are really good. But I think Ricky Starks is probably a topper, a higher tier. You know, like Trick is the future. Tony D'Angelo is the future. But Ricky Starks is like a little bit older than they are. He's been in the business a little bit longer than they have been. He's probably not going to be in NXT that long. But so he most certainly is a guy that you can build this brand around. NXT for the future is looking extremely strong, because this Ricky Starks thing, like I said, is as big as a surprise it was. This is not even what they was building up. They still got 4 new guys that they're trying to build up to bring in for Vengeance Day. So they got more coming for you, huh? And that's just how you do it. That's how you do it. This was very well done. It was amazing. It was quite good. Do you rush Ricky Starks to this top? I don't think so. Take your time. You know, let him get his feet wet. There's got to be like a mid-card guy on NXT somewhere for him to wrestle. That he can get, you know, a nice little 2-month feud out of. Maybe an Ethan Page once he's done with Javon Evans, which I expect Javon Evans to go over in that feud. But I'll talk about that. We're going to do predictions and previews for Vengeance Day a little bit later. I expect that will be a feud that would probably be good for both guys, as 2 guys who are not just, you know, AEW guys, but 2 guys who have some experience, 2 guys who've been around for a while. And NXT is a company that they need some guys with experience. They don't need too many. It don't need to be, 2021 all over again, 2020 all over again. But they needed some more experienced guys. They needed some more guys that could get in there and mix it up and not rely so heavily on Trick Williams and Oba family, because I know Trick Williams has been around for like 3 years or so. He's only been a top guy for like a year and a half, 2 years. So it's going to take some time for him to, especially in the ring, to come to the level that they want him to be at. Oba Femi is an excellent package. He probably won't be on this show much longer, if we're being honest. So you need to get what you can out of him. But you have the option of doing Ricky Starks and Oba Femi. Ricky Starks and Trick Williams. Now they are positioning Ricky Starks, at least right now, as a babyface, which is going to make this easy. It's a difficult situation because Trick Williams is the top babyface, but you can move Ricky Starks into that second or third tier level and give him somebody else to work with until the top babyface spot is open. So they got opportunities there. I think he's probably better as a heel, but let's get in there and get people already like him. Don't give them a reason to dislike him yet. And then, of course, if you really want to spice things up, you can bring some guys down for Ricky Starks to work with, and that could be fun too. But there's a lot of people who are very excited. Carmelo Hayes and CM Punk and so many other people have responded to this positively. This was much needed for Ricky Starks and NXT. It's a perfect marriage. Ricky Starks kept off TV for such a long time, punished for literally no good reason. And then NXT slowly but surely keeps getting fucked in these drafts. And they needed male talent. So it was a perfect marriage. And the timing was right. This is excellent. Got to give this credit. Now, let's go over to the regular part of the show. Cora Jade is defeated by Bayley, which, of course, almost made me pull my hair out because Bayley just beat Lyra Valkyria clean on Raw, and here she is losing to Cora Jade. Makes no sense. Anyway, their match was fine. This was probably the best match Cora Jade has had since she came back. And of course, Bayley is one of her role models. She gets to hang out with her role models all day. It's one of those mark things. And then Roxanne Perez also idolizes Bayley. She comes out cosplaying the hugger version of Bayley, which of course is a distraction. Bayley gets DDT'd on the floor. She gets rolled in the ring, DDT'd in the ring, and Cora Jade wins the match. Now, because Cora Jade won this match and she beat Bayley, who was one of the top contenders for the women's title, she's put in the women's championship match, so now it's a fatal 4-way. I didn't like the triple threat idea, so I certainly don't like the fatal 4-way idea. But they're continuing the story between Roxanne and Cora Jade, where they're frenemies. Cora Jade tried to hit her with a stick last week, but this week, Roxanne Perez kind of inadvertently helped Cora Jade win, while Cora Jade is also taking pot shots at Roxanne about her never winning championships or anything like that. And Bayley is just there for the gives. She's there for the catering. I thought the match was solid, but one of the things that I will say, a lot of people are going to probably bust my balls over this, but Bayley, she's changed a lot since Vince left. There's some things that's going on with Bayley that I don't think you would have saw if Vince was still around. Not just her gaining weight, but there is some other things, I think. Her in-ring work, too. There's some quirks, some chemistry issues, things that are slightly off that weren't always the case before. And it seemed like when she was dancing on the head of that needle, because Vince, wasn't a big Bayley fan. When she was dancing on the head of that needle, she was more precise, Now she got Triple H, who is fully supportive, and there's this huge safety net underneath her. And I've been criticizing Bayley for over a year now, and I still love Auntie Pam. I'm just giving loving criticism. I don't think she's having bad matches, I think she's having good matches, but I think she could have better ones. And I do believe that a couple of years ago, she would have had a better match with Cora Jade. She would have had better matches with You know, even that lumbering idiot Nia Jax, you know, 2 or 3 years ago. So maybe Bayley's on the downslide. You know, maybe she's just not up to par like she used to be. But I still like Bayley. She's not like, you know, washed or anything like that. But you could tell that she doesn't have so much pressure on her. So she allows herself to make mistakes and have chemistry issues and stuff like that. Because she's being treated like a legend. You know? And I'm not sure if... Well, she's earned it, I guess. It's fair, you know, for women's division. The 4 horsewomen are kind of legends, okay? Let's move on to Zarya versus Nikkita Lyons. They get into it backstage where Nikkita Lyons scoffed at the idea of Zarya and Sol Ruka training at the beach, which Zarya didn't even like because it was Sol Ruka's idea. And it ended up with Big Cat Kita challenging Zarya to a match. And I thought this was disqualification bait, if we're being honest. Because I figured, well, Nikkita Lyons rarely loses. And Zarya is fairly new. You know, like, you're not going to beat Zarya. So I kind of figured if there was going to be a finish, Nikkita Lyons would lose. I think this is probably only like the 3rd or 4th match she's lost. And she's been in NXT for like 3 years now. And this is like only the 3rd or 4th televised loss that she's had. She hadn't had that many. But in terms of like, what do you call a female hoss fight? You know, like, this was pretty close. They was German suplexing each other. At one point, Nikkita Lyons bust out a Hurricane Rana. You know, she did the splits while she had Zarya in the camel clutch. Like, my God, that should have been the finish. If I'd have had to guess Nikkita Lyons' weight, I think that girl at least 210. She's a 200-pounder for sure. Because she's tall. So she's a 200-pounder for sure. And I know Zarya's a big girl too, but my God. All the ass and thighs on that woman. Jesus Christ. Okay, so Zarya didn't look bad here. She didn't look great, but she didn't look bad. She did look a little rough around the edges. I'm still not a fan of their presentation of Zarya. Her being backstage, commingling with all the rest of the girls while she looks like Road Warrior Animal. That doesn't make sense. You do that for all these generically named, generic-looking blondes. You put them in that spot. She should be something else. Again, I say... From the last week, we were promised Xena Warrior Princess or Furiosa from Mad Max or something like that. Not Gossip Girl from Saved by the Bell in face paint. No. Get her out of this situation. She needs to get out of these locker rooms. Get out of there. You know? Go somewhere else. She should be like in dark places or something. Like, this doesn't make sense. But the match was probably the best match Nikkita Lyons has had. It might be the match I paid the most attention to, but I think this might be Nikkita Lyons' best match. And you still don't see a lot out of Zarya. They haven't decided to put the pressure on her yet. So that means that they clearly think that there's some holes in her game that they don't want to expose, which is why, you know, the other 2 girls, which they signed at around the same time, are getting bigger pushes. I think she might be the least experienced of the 3. So, Obafemi, he had a promo segment with Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. And they had Austin Theory and Grayson Waller take shots at each other. Where Austin Theory talked about... But he really put over Grayson Waller. He put over Grayson Waller a lot. Maybe too much. You know, he almost broke out the Gawk 5000. He was putting that guy over strong. Called him a pillar of NXT. Talked about, you know, how it was sad that all these other guys got to be the NXT champion and never Grayson Waller. And I'm like, man, what's going on here? What's the nature of this relationship? In any event, he turned it at the end by saying that Grayson Waller is going to help him win the NXT title. To which Grayson Waller put over Austin Theory as a, you know, former champion, but he was a sidekick in NXT, and he's going to be a sidekick again to watch him win the title. And then they bicker back and forth, to which Austin Theory takes a shot at Grayson Waller for never winning a singles championship, while Grayson Waller takes a shot at Austin Theory by saying he saved Austin Theory's career and nobody wants to hear about his accomplishments. And they're going back and forth, and Obafemi's just standing there smiling because in in his mind, what he said earlier is it's going to be a handicap match. Like, you two guys are just going to fight amongst yourselves afterwards, you know. But now he sees that they're dissolving right in front of him. But of course, it was all a ruse. They jumped him, beat him up, and A-Town Down Under, essentially promising to work, you know, as partners against Obafemi. It was a solid segment. Probably too much. Probably laid it on too thick. I think these guys got a little too personal with each other for it to be a fake turn on each other. They took some pretty solid digs at one another, you know, and I wonder if that's the angle, is one of them's going to take what was said personally, you know, because they've been teasing this breakup for a long time, and the breakup probably not even going to happen, if we're being honest. But Obafemi was strong. Theory was a strong character, and Grayson Waller was good. Like, he was good. He's a great promo. You know, he's Australian Miz. He's a solid promo. He's really good. If only he can get his physique together. All right, Eddie Thorpe had a promo where he talked about people scoffing at his name and being overlooked by Ava and HBK, disregarded by these people. And no more. You're going to respect him, respect his culture, respect his people, etc. He challenged Trick Williams to a strap match. Trick Williams accepted. All right. We're going to talk about that when we get there. Just not going to dwell on it too much. Next was a number one contenders triple threat match for the tag team titles. Hank and Tank versus Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights versus Josh Briggs and some guy named Inimura, who is a very short, pale Japanese gentleman with a very weird look. Now, Briggs and Inimura actually won this match, which made me want to throw my TV because, look, we just got rid of one big tall bum in, you know, Gallows. Now we got to deal with another one in Josh Briggs, all right? Heavens to Betsy. Heavens to Betsy. But they've had this Inimura guy in NXT for like 3 months, and he ain't done shit. So I guess they want to do something with this guy. I really have decided that I don't watch Hank and Tank matches. I don't like these guys. I don't like Hank and Tank. But Tavion Heights, man, that guy's good. You know, he really should be breaking out on his own. He's good. You know, also Charlie Dempsey's good too. Where did he go? Did he fall in an ether? Where is he at? I know he lost that cup a couple of weeks ago to Lexis King, but where's he been since? Just chilling, hanging around Orlando by himself. Anyway. Alright, so the match was what it was. Inimura's big splash, though, was pretty dope. It looked like it hurt like hell. Anyway, Fraxium challenged him to a match at Vengeance Day. It was accepted. Let's move on. Javon Evans' jaw is healing, so a doctor / dentist or some nebulous medical professional says that he's going to clear Javon Evans to wrestle, but one more serious fracture could end his career. And for some odd reason, this doctor was like, oh, I'm going to clear him, but if he gets injured again, that might be it. I'm like, that's dumb. You know, like, I've never heard anybody getting medically cleared, but you one injury away from calling it a life, I guess. Anyway, Ava, worst general manager in the world, heard the doctor say that he's medically cleared, and she continued to argue it. Even though last week she said if he gets cleared, he can have the match. Now he's clear, and she's kind of like, I don't know, man. Javon, what are you thinking? It's like, bitch, sign the match. Okay, this is what you said you was going to do. What are you doing? So eventually she makes him sign a waiver or some shit, and he's going to get to have his match with Ethan Page. Okay, fine. Moving on. Lexis King defeated Fandango for a Heritage Cup match. This was probably one of the better matches I've seen Lexis King in. And I'm very impressed by JDC / Fandango, because I can't tell you when the last time I watched a match that he was in and paid attention to it. But you can see that he actually knows what he's doing, and Pillman kept up with him. So it was pretty solid. Can't really complain about it. Didn't really care that much about it, but it was fine. Fandango did not come out as Fandango. He came out as JDC. Johnny D. Curtis. Okay? But the match was fine. After that was Kalani Jordan. She wants to fight Fallon Henley, but Fallon Henley said she already beat her. Fallon Henley thinks she's a whole new person because now she's edgier and angrier. Jada Parker shows up. She wants a match with Fallon Henley. Ashani the Adonis is there. He's representing Carmen Petrovich, who wants to fight Fallon Henley. And Fallon Henley just says, you guys figure it out. And she left. She took off. So I guess we're going to figure out what we're doing with Fallon Henley shortly. All right, there was two dorks that tried to talk to Andre Chase. He's still depressed. He's still upset about Chase University being gone. One of them is named Uriah Connors or something like that, but he got a goofy-ass mustache. He's too young to walk around with that doofus-ass mustache. I mean, it made him stand out, I guess. I guess growing a dumbass mustache, it really does help. It helped Cody. Got Cody over. He grew that goddamn mustache and it became the most over thing about him for like a month. Like, that was weird, right? Like, all he did was grow a mustache and all of a sudden he came out looking like a distinguished gentleman and people was laughing at him. They thought it was ridiculous. Every time you see a really young man with a mustache and it's not like the 1800s in Arizona or something like that, you know, he looks weird. A young man with a mustache looks weird. Either go goatee with it, full beard with it, but just that mustache, you look like you work in a saloon every single time. It never fails, you know. Mustache guys, I don't get it. I don't understand you mustache guys. What's the point of this? Even moving on. Let's just move on. The main event of the evening: steel cage match, Ridge Holland versus Tony D'Angelo for the North American title. Earlier in the night, Tony D'Angelo tells Stax and the rest of the crew he wants to do this by himself. So he didn't bar them from ringside, but he did tell them he wanted to do it by himself. He goes in there with Ridge Holland. They have a pretty decent match. Stax at one point stops Izzy Dame as she's trying to throw the crowbar into the ring. And she's trying to throw the crowbar to Tony D'Angelo. Stax takes it to the crowbar and he tosses it in there. Ridge Holland gets the crowbar, actually uses it on Tony D'Angelo. Turns out Tony D'Angelo is made of steel and he kicks out of Ridge Holland hitting him with the crowbar. Later, Tony D'Angelo just wins the match with his finish. So Ridge Holland, man, that guy's dead, right? He's dead in the water. I don't even see how you can pull him from the grave at this point. I'm thinking you're looking at a guy who might be getting his walking papers. You know, like, I think he might get that pink slip. I hope not. I hope maybe he'll just get moved back to Raw or SmackDown or something. But I'm pretty sure his days in NXT are over. He's lost to the NXT champion twice. He's lost to the North American champion twice. He's not a tag team guy anymore. He lost those belts. I just don't see what else is there to do with Ridge Holland. You know, he was a dastardly heel with a lot of heat, but I just don't know what his upside is. You know, what do you do with this guy now? But Tony D'Angelo should have been positioned as a top guy sooner. But this is top guy shit they did here. So Tony D'Angelo wins the match. Ridge Holland goes berserk because he lost. So now he's attacking various people. And he gets beat up by Stax and Luca Crucifino. They beat him, but they're fighting off. So basically they're scrapping and they're walking backwards, which is, you know, is pro wrestling 101. As they're walking off, Izzy Dame and Rizzo, Adrian Rizzo, are helping Tony D'Angelo to his feet. And then Shawn Spears appears with his goon squad. They go into the cage where Izzy Dame attacks Tony D'Angelo with the crowbar. So now he's down and Spears and his goons get into the ring and they start stomping and beating all over Tony D'Angelo. It is what I expected it to be in terms of Izzy Dame really being a mole for, you know, Spears group, but it was very well done. I don't like Shawn Spears. I don't like Brooks Jensen. I don't see how either one of them people still have jobs. Like, you're firing guys and Shawn Spears not on that list. You're firing guys and Brooks Jensen is not on that list. Now, look, I understand he's a young guy, but he should certainly be on the list. He's in that orbit of guys that I would fire, you know. Shawn Spears is definitely on the list. He's on top of the list. He is the list. He's the first 5 people on the list. All right? I done fired Shawn Spears 3 times before I even got to fucking Carl Anderson. If it was like it's firing season, Shawn Spears getting it 4 or 5 times. It had got to a point where I'd have put a sticker up on the Performance Center like "Do not enter" and put his picture right there. You don't want him nowhere around here. They firing people and keeping Shawn Spears. What the fuck is the point of that? None of your firings can be legitimate if Shawn Spears is still on your roster. Then nothing you're doing in terms of budget cuts. You don't even. Why use that as an excuse? No budget cuts. We just don't like you. All right. I don't like you, so I want you to go away. Go away from me forever. Shawn Spears, you suck. And take Brooks Jensen with you. That other guy, I'm not so sure. I don't know. I don't see enough of him yet. But you can take Brooks Jensen with you. He's a young guy, though, so maybe you want to cut him some slack. Anyway, NXT, the body of the rest of the show, very well done. I enjoyed Cora Jade versus Bayley. Enjoyed Nikkita Lyons versus Zarya. Enjoyed the main event. Got a good surprise in there. Got some story stuff in there. Just a very solid, robust episode of NXT that was elevated when Ricky Starks debuted. Literally out of nowhere. And then at the end of the show, it shows some guys in masks. And once again tease that there's going to be new people at Vengeance Day. And it's going to be a new stable, apparently. I'm very interested. They also released a bunch of names where there's going to be a bunch of new call-ups and all this kind of stuff they got going on. There's also some conversation that they might change Ricky Stark's name and Jordynne Grace's name. I hope not. Just go with the... Since WWE now is not the Vince McMahon land that it was before, just go with the names that they came with, dog. Bringing Ricky Starks in and then changing his name is dumb. Bringing Jordynne Grace in and then changing her name is dumb. Just stick with the names that they got now. If it was Vince WWE, I would say, okay, maybe you need to change their names because he's changing everybody's name. Unless you're AJ Styles, he's changing your name. But these folks, they're not changing people's names. They're kind of adjusting them, but they're not changing their names really. Not a lot. So I would go with them staying, keeping their regular names. Also, this might be interesting before we get into Vengeance Day. There was some conversation about Jordynne Grace taking a pay cut to come to WWE, which is amazing if that was the case. Also, people take pay cuts when they believe that their earning potential is higher. So maybe she was making more money via the contract in TNA, but her earning potential is higher in WWE, which makes sense. She's only 28. She got plenty of time to grow into and then go beyond what she was making in TNA. So I understand why she might be taking a pay cut. Plus WWE, they're going to factor in a bunch of other things to boost her up. So maybe in terms of guarantee, she's going to make less money, but she might end up making more money in the long term. Because I don't think there's much in the neighborhood of merchandising going on with TNA. At least I didn't see any. She was in TNA for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen a Jordynne Grace t-shirt. I don't think I've ever seen one. And then when you take into account she's going to be in the video games and all that kind of stuff too, more than likely she's going to end up going beyond what she was paid in TNA. And that would be why she would sign that contract. Or she's just a mark, I mean, it is what it is, but she's young. She's done everything she can do in TNA, taking a little pay cut. And people have said that they've done that. I think there have been other people who have said that they took a pay cut to come to WWE. And it's for the same reason. Earning potential is much higher. Even if the money and the guarantee is lower, the earning potential is much higher due to merchandising, knowing that you're going to be in a video game, knowing that they're going to do action figures, knowing that they're going to do playing cards, knowing that they're going to do posters, knowing they're going to do all these things that you're going to get paid off of. Your earning potential is going to be much higher. So let's talk about NXT Vengeance Day. Vengeance Day will be airing from Entertainment and Sports Arena in Washington, D.C. There's 3,572 tickets has been distributed. 155 tickets remaining as of this recording. It's not a sellout. They need to sell about 200 more tickets in order to sell the thing out completely, but very solid house for NXT, which is slowly but surely becoming WWE's hottest brand. Like, they were up in the 800,000 viewers the other day, which is rarefied air, even for NXT in the past. Like, once NXT started going down in like 2019, 800,000 seemed like it was far and away, not going to be hit. And it took a long time for them to get back up to that level. So they're getting there now with regular episodes without doing they're featuring Bayley and Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, but these are not like super TV draws or anything like that. So they're just drawing based off storylines and characters and doing fun stuff, going viral for weird segments that they're doing on television that, all the dirt sheet guys don't like, but all the regular people do, So there's 7 matches on the card. We got to go through this. This is actually a legitimate wrestling card because it has 7 matches. Not 5, not 4, 7, which is a good, solid wrestling card. Match the first, Javon Evans versus Ethan Page. Ethan Page is now being positioned as being the most diabolical heel in all of NXT. A face crusher, the smiling axe murderer, this gimmick that they've got for him. If he's going to be serious, he should win. But if you're serious about pushing Javon Evans, he should also win. So this is definitely a toss-up, and that's kind of fun. Not knowing who's going to win and kind of having the idea that either one of these guys could win and benefit from winning could be amazing. Like, Javon Evans is a guy they've been flirting with in terms of the main event. If he beats Ethan Page, then you could just go ahead and push him in the main event. Ethan Page is a guy who's been at the top already. And if you want to reheat him for a match with Obafemi or a match with Ricky Starks or something like that, then he could beat Javon Evans, right? I'm thinking this is not the end of the feud. I think there will be more matches. So I will say Javon Evans is going to win the match. And then there's probably going to be some post-match shenanigans with Ethan Page that's going to take Javon Evans out. That's what they told us about his jaw. That if his jaw gets injured again, he might be gone forever. And then you're going to have an avenging angel of some kind who are going to show up and be like, oh, Ethan Page, you're a horrible person. And going to continue that feud. Now that, Cedric Alexander is gone, he doesn't have that guy anymore. So they're going to need another guy to stand up for Javon. But I can see easily Javon winning this match, only for Ethan Page to take him out after the match. Or they could do something slick where they could have a no contest because Ethan Page took Javon Evans' face out, smash his face on the ring post or something like that, and therefore it's a no contest. But it continues their feud in the future. All right, second match on the show, Trick Williams versus Eddie Thorpe strap match. Okay, let's talk about this. Trick Williams has to win this match. Eddie Thorpe is just a distraction. I don't think Eddie Thorpe is a major player in NXT. I get it. He was a big free agent signing, coming from Japan and, coming from the New Japan Dojo. But I don't think he's connecting in terms of this character, this personality. I don't think it's connecting. He had some heat last week when he whipped Trick Williams. Got some heat online, too, because, you whipped a black man in February. You knew everybody's going to have an attitude about that. And I think that's where the majority of the heat came from, is the fact that he's messing around with Trick Williams. I don't know if he has any heat on his own, And is Eddie Thorpe the kind of guy you can make the world champion? No. He's not a top guy you can build the company around. Could he be a solid North American champion? Sure. He could be a solid North American champion. But I think that we're going to end up going back to Trick Williams versus Obafemi. And because I believe that we're going back to Trick Williams or Obafemi, I think Trick Williams is going to win this match. They've been showing a harder edge to Trick Williams lately. I like that. It's a lot different than, the usual flashy, almost Muhammad Ali-esque Trick Williams, which is still the more fun version of Trick Williams. This, serious shit-talking Trick Williams. I like this too, but I like, Trick Willie. That's fun. I like when Trick Williams is fun. But I want to try to make him a little bit more serious, show a different dynamic to his character. This is what storylines are supposed to do. Right? When people say, oh, what's the story? This is the story. Trick Williams has been fucked out of his championship. Fucked out of rematches. And now he's pissed off. So now the idea of him coming out, being all happy, whoop that Trick, making jokes and all that, all that's done. This guy humiliated him, whipped him on TV. He's serious now. This is how you develop characters. This is how you get people engaged in the story. All right? So this is perfect. Trick Williams got to win this match. Eddie Thorpe has no future. I hate to break it to him. He might not get fired, but I think he's mid-card NXT forever. I don't even think he makes it to the main roster of WWE, if we being honest. I don't see him as a main roster talent. Doing what exactly? Look what they're doing with Carmelo Hayes, for God's sake. Look at what they were doing with Ilya Dragunov. He might be doing speed matches or something. But I don't see him being a main roster WWE guy. All right, the next match, third match on the show, Fraxium versus Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura for the tag team titles. Fraxium is not going to be able to save this one, I don't think. Usually the Fraxium Miracle pulls great matches out of bums, and I don't think it's going to happen this time. I don't think they're going to be able to sprinkle enough voodoo around to get me to give a shit about Josh Briggs and Inamura. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to work. Your best bet is to switch these guys immediately. Switch them as fast as you can. But Fraxium's going to win. I don't know what they're building Fraxium for, but they should continue being the champions. They had a really good match against the Nemeth brothers, which I can't believe I'm going to say because Ryan Nemeth is incredibly untalented. But, they worked very well with Dolph on TNA recently. I suggest everybody go watch it. The Nemeth brothers versus Axiom and Nathan Fraser was a pretty good match. The fourth match on the show, Fallon Henley versus Stephanie Vaquer for the Women's North American Championship. I think it's pretty clear that Stephanie Vaquer wins this match. I don't see a reason why she shouldn't. Yes, Fallon Henley has done a good job as champion. Yes, she's in the middle of a bunch of other feuds where she could feud with other people. Like Gigi Dolan and Shotzi, and she could continue doing stuff with them. There's also some other girls like Jada Parker and Lola Vice and all of them she could be working with too. But I'm thinking that Sean purposefully kept Stephanie and Julia apart. They purposefully separated them so that they could have that grand collision later. And I think in order to make that collision bigger, Stephanie Vaquer has to go over. And I think she's one of the stars. Like, Stephanie Vaquer is one of the bigger stars on the brand. In terms of popularity and name value and all that, I think you got to put the belt on Stephanie now. The issue is going to be, what do you do with Fallon Henley if you take it off? Do you move her and the rest of her team up to the main roster? Well, JC Jane's been in NXT since, Sam Jackson was in high school. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that Fallon Henley and JC Jane can go up as a tag team, but Jasmine Nix, goddamn, she's basically a toddler. She just got there. Like, do you really pull her up too? Because I think you put her in the same situation that Elektra Lopez and B-Fab is in, where you pulled them out too soon. They just up there chilling now and basically just hangers on. Much like, Jakara Jackson, if they was to pull up the Meta Girls, So it's an interesting gimmick here when it comes to Fatal Influence. I think it could work on the main roster. I just don't think Jasmine Nix is fits. I think she has to stay behind. So I'm going to go with Stephanie Vaquer to win the match. And I believe that when they do the draft, they will draft Fallon Henley and she'll go to Monday Night Raw or something like that, SmackDown. And hopefully she won't be sitting in catering for a year like Vanessa Bourne. You forgot about her, didn't you? Like Vanessa Bourne or Kiana James or Blair Davenport. It's always somebody, isn't it? They get drafted. It was another one, Odyssey Jones. He was another one. He got drafted and just let him sit in catering. You got drafted just for the lows, just for the screen. It looked good on TV, but it didn't mean anything. Hopefully that doesn't happen to Fallon Henley. That should happen to somebody like Eddie Thorpe. Mr. Irrelevant. But Stephanie Vaquer is going to win this title, and she's going to run with it for a while. Just let it happen. Let's just get the ball rolling. All right, NXT Women's title: Julia, Bayley, Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, Fatal 4-Way for the women's title. I truly believe that Julia is going to win this match. And I believe Cora Jade was introduced into this match in order to lose it. In order to continue the friction between Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez, it would make sense for Cora Jade to lose the match, for Roxanne to complain that she didn't lose, that it was really Cora that lost, and for them to continue having issues, with Cora being the least successful of the two. Now, when it comes to Cora Jade, they are still, as far as I know, still building. Yeah, they are still building her storyline with Masha Slamovich and TNA. So, I don't know if you just want to beat Cora Jade to death and then send her over to TNA and try to act like she's a big star. So, that's why one of the reasons why I question why they would even put her in this match, because it seems to me that she's just in the match to lose. There is an element of, what do you do with Julia? Clearly Bayley is going to go back to the main roster. She's already set for Elimination Chamber and all that. So the story, she's just there to get publicity and get attention, to bring all the Horsewoman fans, all the Bayley buddies in to watch the show. Julia's going to be a star. I don't know if we've seen the girl who's going to take the belt off Julia. They're likely going to probably pull some kind of main roster shit where Julia gets beat by like Charlotte or something like that, and just to get the belt off of her. I don't think Charlotte's going to challenge Julia for WrestleMania, by the way. I'm just saying. Much like they used being drafted to get the belt off Asuka, or they used Charlotte to get the belt off Rhea Ripley, and that kind of gimmick. I could see them doing something like that with Julia, where, they've already pinned her a couple of times already, but once they get the ball rolling on her, I think they're going to want to protect her and probably have her lose it to a main roster girl. So I don't think her losing to any of these chicks in NXT, unless it's Stephanie Vaquer, makes sense. So I think not only does Julia win, but Julia either beats Roxanne or she beats Cora, and then they argue amongst themselves, leading to them having a match against each other, probably at Stand and Deliver. The main event of the show: Obafemi versus Austin Theory versus Grayson Waller for the NXT Championship. Clearly, Obafemi is going to win. Hopefully, this leads to the official breakup of A-Town Down Under. I like them together, but they've been teasing a breakup between these two guys for like 6 solid months. It's been a long time that they have been teasing a breakup between Theory and Waller. It's time to shit or get off the pot. As a tag team, I don't think they're going anywhere. But if you keep them in NXT, and I am hoping that they stay in NXT, they can really have some legs, especially Austin Theory. And matter of fact, I think Austin Theory and Ricky Starks could have some hell of a good matches together. I think Grayson Waller and Grayson Waller and Ricky Starks could have some really good matches together. I think either one of them versus Trick Williams could be great. Either one of them versus Obafemi one-on-one could be great, except for maybe, Grayson Waller rolling outside the ring in. I hate that. I hate it so much. But there's a lot of potential for Waller and Theory as singles acts in NXT. I don't know unless they're going to beat Fraxium, and win the tag team titles. I don't see what the ceiling is for them as a tag team in NXT. But it also might just be that they're not going to be a tag team. They're just going to be there for a cup of coffee to punch this match forward, and then they're going to be gone, which I'm hoping is not the case. You know, Triple H clearly is not interested in pushing these guys. Keep them in NXT for a couple of months. You know, Obafemi, clearly they're building him up for that big showdown with Trick Williams one-on-one at Stand and Deliver, or a big match with Ricky Starks, which, you know, always is an option now. I'm going to go with Obafemi winning, clearly, and maybe Grayson Waller being the one to take the pin. So I expect this show to be really good. Now, in terms of food, usually I make a special meal for pay-per-view events. Now, this is actually going to be airing, and then AEW is going to have their Grand Slam show. I don't know what I'm going to have because I've had chili and tacos and all that kind of stuff recently. Maybe I'll have to step out of my comfort zone and have something else. But I will certainly let everybody know what it is. But let me know how you feel about NXT. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.